Mark, today we're going to talk about another element of shame called the father wound. Well, welcome to Breaking Biscuits, the experience. Mark, we've been on this subject of shame for several weeks, and you and I were talking, and we said, man, we can't ignore the subject of the father wound. Seems like so many men that we talk to, this is definitely something that's front and center. And I want to start out just with a question to you. Like when you hear the word or the phrase, the father wound, what comes to your mind?
Just, for the most part, an absent father. I mean, there are bad fathers, abusive fathers, but I think the absent one is the most hurtful. I think a child will adapt to an abusive father and equate that with love to cope, but at least they had someone in the house. But I checked on the stats, and 19.5 million children live in a home without a father, a stepfather, or an adopted father. That's 1 in 4.
Wow. And
when I was in Detroit in 2000 to 2012, about 2005, Detroit City was the #1 fatherless city in the United States. And it was 94% of every child born in Detroit City proper would never even know or see their father. And it just felt like there's this gigantic hole in their heart, in their whole being. And I could only imagine.
Right. I can't even imagine as well. I know you and I both had fathers in the home, and I obviously they weren't perfect, but they were present. Mm-hmm. And certainly shaped. I know my father shaped my identity, and when I think about the relationship with my father, who's deceased now, and my most prideful moments in life was an affirmation from him. Like just knowing you've pleased your father. There's something in a man that just clicks when they know they pleased their father. So just the opposite happens when you feel like there's something wrong with you. And I think that's where the shame piece comes in. Yeah. Because these men that don't have father figures or have had bad examples of fathers, then they feel this sense of shame that that something's wrong with them. They're not good enough to earn the praise or the affirmation of their very own father that brought them into the world. That was the seed of life to them. And it's just an extraordinarily deep, hurtful pain that comes from that.
Like not being wanted, acknowledging that the feeling, I guess what you're saying is not feeling wanted, but also tagging onto that as my fault.
Yeah.
Something wrong with me. It's almost like in the wild, a mother cat will abandon one of their children because something's wrong with it. That's what I'm hearing you saying. It's an epidemic, Toby. In our last Breaking Biscuits event, the couples were there, but each husband of the couples had father issues, major, deep-rooted father stuff.
Yeah.
And the people that we coach today still have that, and it's like we run across them all the time, and that makes me understand why anger is such a thing, because there's this. I think this wound is so deep that we built a life around it so we don't have to deal with it.
Mark, do you think the men even know that that's the root of the pain?
No chance. I think what I'm learning is when I talk to men and coaching them is we shed a light and say, are you maybe treating your children the way your father treated you? And then the wheels start clicking. But they had not even thought of it up to that point. Their only thought is I'll never be like him. But you and I know that's the worst. That's the worst solving of a healing wound, to say I'll just never be. It sounds like Nancy Reagan. Just don't do drugs.
Right.
I'll never be like him.
Why do you think there's such a strong imprint for us to duplicate what's modeled to us, like for men to model what their father's done to us? It's like an imprint. It's like we can't help ourselves.
It has to be in our DNA to. It's just part of our DNA. It's like I was talking to somebody the other day. It is a lot of what your parents teach you, right? It's a lot of what they say to you and how they guide you. But the most important thing is what they do and how they live their life. That's the message that gets modeled. Not always what we tell our kids. It's how we live our life. And I don't think fathers understand that the way they interact with their wife, which is the children's mother in the house, is modeling to their sons and daughters every single day.
Right.
I like
agree.
what you said, though. My youngest son, Reese, I was talking to him and how much I'm proud of him and all these things, and he told me he's 30-something, I don't know, 32, I don't even know, 33, please forgive me. 1994 he was born, so he's 31. Anyway, he said, Dad, all sons really want is to have their dad as a friend when they get older.
Yeah.
And I just thought, wow, I've never heard that. So what is the effect? Or because I think the father gives, in Jewish culture, the mother nurtures the children, the sons especially, till they're 13, and then they have this whatever that you know what that's called? I don't.
Bar mitzvah.
Yeah, they have a bar mitzvah and they graduate from the mom to the dad. Now the dad takes them under their wing and starts. But there's something to that about having identity and purpose. And I love what you said at the very first, because when Jesus started his ministry, he got baptized by John. When he came out of the water, there was a booming voice of God, the Father, that said, "This is my son, and I am well pleased in him." That gives you enough energy to do anything forever.
Yeah, it really does. It's like a motivate. We talk vulnerability as a superpower. It's like a motivational superpower to get affirmation, from your father. I know my own experience. I had a kind of a unique experience because later in life, as an adult, my father late in life started a business, and I was in my early 30s and always had a dream to work together. So I went to work for him, and we built a really nice business. But what was interesting was the relationship, because initially it was kind of had an opposite effect, because working with a family member, you realize that, because he was my hero, I was like, he could do no wrong. But when you're together working side by side, you're like, well, he's just like me. He may. Consequently, it kind of threw me off. But as I matured and, lots of things happened. I stayed in the business. He retired. Those things. I began to appreciate, he like from a business standpoint, where I went with my career far exceeded where he went with his career.
Mm-hmm.
He was not jealous. He was like proud. He would
Mm-hmm.
cry. Like every time I tell him a story, he's like, "Hey, I just signed this deal, Dad." And he's like, "Oh man, that's so awesome." And he's like, just affirmation after affirmation. And it made me feel like I could fly to the moon and back. And it's just, I can't imagine, Mark, living a life absent of that, of not getting any identity or any affirmation from a father figure. And then as you get older, it's like you're lost. And I think this is maybe where I want to go with you on this, because I know you're a father figure to many. As we age in life, men are drawn to us
Mm-hmm.
because they're looking for affirmations. They're looking for that father figure, that guidance, that someone that'll, care. Honestly,
Yeah, that's the word I was hearing.
is just caring at a heart level for them as a man, what they've been through, what their circumstances have served them. I mean, like, how do you think about that, and what's your thoughts on that?
I made a post on Facebook last week that said, your father is the first and only man in your life that truly wants you to do better than he did.
That's great.
And I said, but if you don't have one, God has a supply of spiritual fathers that can help you. But you can't, I don't know. I'm not certain that a mom could give the son everything they need in that respect. Hopefully. But God did say, I give fathers to the fatherless. So it's his idea. So if you're sitting out there and you go, man, I wasn't raised with a father. Now I'm realizing maybe this might be a deep-seated core issue. How do I solve it? And God will send fathers in your path. They're probably all around you. You just don't know them. There's a great writer, and he's the bishop. His name is Callistos Ware. He's a archbishop, metropolitan in England. And he said, the strange things about spiritual fathers? They're never the guys that have the big churches. They're never the guys that, because everybody wants T.D. Jakes to be their spiritual father.
Right.
But I'll just go ahead and put it out there for you. He don't have time. So, but they're always these solid men that walk in grace and have just they're usually people that you would never dream would be your guide. And I don't know. I don't know how people do that, but I certainly would be asking God to put one in my path.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of go back to some of the attributes that we struggle with if we don't have that, because not only not feeling like you're enough, but you maybe go back to the identity thing, I guess, is what comes to my mind. So it's almost as you grow older, the longer you go without that spiritual father, you don't know your true self. How would you find yourself without some kind of spiritual fatherly influence?
It's not impossible, but God had a better way.
Okay.
Even in the ancient church, they still to this day, they don't call the pastor John. They call him Father John. And there's a reason for it. Because his role is not just to pastor the people. his role is to be father to the people. And sometimes that's different. In our culture, when you're a pastor, you're responsible to teach, guide, and direct. But if you're a father, you sit down, listen to all the aspects of their life. You know, you're more touchable, reachable, vulnerable. That's why in the early church, if they had the Roman Catholic Church had a confession booth, right? Well, the Protestants didn't want no part of that. Well, I can just go to God myself. Well, how'd that work out for you? Because you really needed, the Orthodox have a father figure. Even in the monastery, the leader of the monastery is called the Abba, which is a father. And every night, after dinner and everything's shutting down, he goes to the students, the monks, and asks them to disclose everything in their heart that's troubling them. Every single thought. And we don't have that. We've never had that. Even the fathers we had never asked us that. So
yeah, what comes to my mind, Mark, when you're talking is the difference between having a father figure or a man give you information versus someone that truly cares about your well-being, that wants to know what's going on in your life, wants to know what's going on in your heart. You know, because mentors give information.
Mm-hmm.
Mentors say, give me all the inputs, and I'll give you some advice of what the direction I think you should go. But a father says, how are you doing? How are you really doing?
Yeah.
That's what a father says.
Father's
how can
not
I help
even
you?
impressed with all your figures.
Exactly.
He wants you to succeed, don't get me wrong, but he's smart enough to know if your heart is broken or whatever, you're not going to make it anyway.
So you were saying if
spiritual fathers, I had a wonderful father. When I grew up as a kid, honestly, God is my witness. I looked at all my old writings when I was a little kid in elementary school. I remember high school. I just wanted to be like my father. So I feel like I was blessed in that area, but I keep running into great men, but they have this father wound and don't even know it. I read here that it says there's anger towards absent. There's anger toward and by being disappointing by men. There's, in other words, the fruit of this wound is I don't trust men. I don't trust men in leadership. And that reminds me, you and I were talking like that's why there's more women in the church than men.
Right.
Because it's a man thing and it's a voluntary thing. It's not a job. You don't pay me to be there.
Right.
It's a
but
thing.
You know, I come from the business world, and I can spot the fatherless.
Really?
Oh,
What's
yeah.
it look like in your world?
Well, it's the same people that's in the church. They struggle with people in leadership and authority. They just struggle with interacting with men in positions of influence and positions of power. They're insecure, which is understandable.
Yeah.
I mean, a fatherless person, unless they've had somebody speak into their life, you know, that's given them that affirmation and confidence, then they're going to be insecure men. And insecure men usually are angry men because they have to cover up the insecurity with something. It's just not a good feeling. So yeah, I think it's prevalent in society, and I guess my mind goes, Mark, to what you mentioned earlier. If how do you find a spiritual father? Like if you have this awareness now, you say, wow, this has been missing in my life. Like you said, look around. they're probably there. Doesn't mean they have to be 30 years your senior.
Mm-mm.
Like, can you talk about that?
Well, the theory is in the early fathers' writings, what I've learned is the fathers find you. Live your life in such a way that they're attracted to, they see something in you, that you're living a life on purpose, even though you're wounded.
What does that look like? To like, how would one attract the spiritual father? What do they do different? So let's say today they're unaware, closed down, full of shame, think they should be past all this, angry. Like, how do they pivot to a point where there's a softness to attract the spiritual father?
It's really like kind of doing your work, not be so angry and all that. I feel spiritually attracted to certain people in a spiritual way, and I just know that I want to reach out to them and see how they're doing and see if there's a relationship that can be built. Like Elijah went to Elisha, Barnabas went to Paul. Like, but if honestly, if I was really in need of spiritual fathering and I feel like this would really help me, I would make myself available. I would invite the person that you feel most connected to spiritually. Like I can be connected to people who don't even know them, but I can just say, man, there's something about you that really intrigues me, and I would take them out to lunch and just pick their brain and see if there's a relationship that could be built.
Yeah.
And just be very, very honest about it. I've had both encounters both ways.
I think for me,
I knew I needed it. I needed spiritual fathering and nurturing. I had a couple or three of the greatest men and probably in the planet that helped me, but I made myself available. I lived my life in a way that they probably said, man, this dude's got some promise. I want to see what's up with him.
So yeah, when you were talking, the word humility came to my mind. I mean, if you're walking in humility, do you think that's a magnet to a spiritual father?
100%.
Yeah.
Humility. I tell people this: obedience and humility is the only two things that's not a fruit of the Spirit. It's a work that you have to do. It's a work that we do. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, kindness, meekness, temperance. But obedience and humility is not on that list, because that's something that we have to do. And when Elijah met Elisha, he was a different kind of person. He was plowing with 12 yokes of oxen. So 12 is the governmental number for God. He was able to get in line with apostolic, this world. And even when Elijah put his mantle on him and he left and followed him, Elisha is such a person that he killed all his oxen and shared it with all his friends and family. Like, he was a giver. He didn't sell it and take the money. So yeah, humility. I think humility is very attractive. Spiritual people. But we do the opposite, I think. We overcompensate and try to be massively over important. I don't know. What's your experience? I know you meet people all the time, and some of them have a pull on you and some don't.
Yeah, I think I'm pulled. I think that's why I brought that up. I'm pulled by humility. And honestly, like, to be transparent, because I'm not always walked in that. Obviously, the opposite of that is pride and arrogance.
Mm-hmm.
And having seen that in my own life and seeing what it's done to me,
Mm-hmm.
it's very displeasing. It's like two magnets that are polar opposite, like push against each other. I just don't want anything to do with it. But when I see brokenness, humility from a man, especially from a man that portrays himself as strong, but shows me that side of him that says, this is a bit of an act. I'm just covering for what's really underneath, and I'm willing to humble myself and show you the real me, that I don't have it all together, because I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
And having been there, it's like compassion is,
Well, that's kind of
is
being
present.
young, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, I don't know too many completely humble 21-year-olds, right? It's just
No, but I had a perfect example. I reached out to a 28-year-old man, and it just has a real pull on my spirit, and I don't know how to make it not spiritual, but it just pulls on my spirit, and he's an incredible human, and he just walks in humility and grace, and I'm attracted, and I just want to, is there anything I can do to help him? And so I reached out to him, and he just yesterday, and he told me, he said, man, I'm glad you called. He said, I've been looking for a mentor. I've been thinking that's what I needed.
Well,
it's
that's
just a
it.
magnet.
I love it. It's like he thinks he needs a mentor, but he needs a spiritual father.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. That's okay. Yeah, exactly. That's okay. Well, you said the word grace. We've been talking about how grace is the answer to shame. And then if we think about the shame that comes from the father wound, how does grace relate to the father wound?
It's got to work just like everything else. It has to. It just has to. This is a tough one, because it's kind of in every fiber of our being to have family. I always think about, when life is hard in my world, in my little world, I always think about, but what do those people do that are in the Middle East and people are just bombing them and they're losing loved ones left and right? How in the world they get up every day? And so I think it should be a point of prayer. But I also think on the other side, if you have a chance to be in a meeting or go to lunch, or you can actually accelerate the process and say, man, I'd like to go out and lunch with you and just talk and bend your ear about some stuff and just see if there's a connection, I don't think there's any right or wrong answer, really. But it's a definitely need, and I think it's a promise that we should stand on, that God gives fathers to the fatherless. That's a promise.
And then, Mark, what do you think for those that were fatherless or had a father that wasn't present or abusive? At what point, how do they process forgiveness and extend grace to an absent father?
I think there is this issue that God can feel and heal these issues. But what I coach people to do is you can't find forgiveness until you realize the absent father, or however your father treated you, or however he modeled to you, I put my life on it. It was modeled to him. So it helps me give him grace, because then I go, well, he did the best he could, and it's unfortunate that he didn't care enough, to make it better, but I can stop it. I don't have to be that to my children. I can break. So it's like trauma not transformed will always be transferred. So I found the grace between me and the Heavenly Father, and again, he's always referenced as a father, for a reason,
Right.
because it is a big deal to humanity. And it's just sad to me, because I was telling my wife the other day, like, even in the wild, it's the fathers that take off, but mothers don't ever abandon their children, ever, never. And so I try to help people see, in a weird way, because Jesus was on the cross and he said, Father, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. In other words, I genuinely see that they did the best they could, or it was modeled to them, or even if they did it on purpose and didn't care about me, at some point I gotta skip that scratch. I just have to. I'm gonna be stuck there the rest of my life. I hate it when I see men treating their wives and children the way that they were raised and they don't even know it.
Right.
I just hate it. I don't think there's an easy answer, Toby. You got to really dig deep. You got to have a lot of grace for yourself, because you're either going to become angry or you're going to become a victim, but something's going to happen to you.
100%.
One way or the other, something's going to happen in your life.
Well, the good news is the father wound can be healed.
Yes.
It starts with awareness.
Mm-hmm.
You said the two things we have to do is we got to do the work, which was humility, and what was the other one?
Obedience.
Obedience. So we got to do the work ourselves, and pray about finding that spiritual father in our lives, and that wound can be healed. It doesn't have to stay that way, but it's probably the root of many, many men that struggle with the lack of vulnerability, shame, anger. At least the men we've been in contact with and cross our paths, it's almost without exception, Mark. It's scary.
Yeah. And that led to everybody being in a marriage crisis.
Yeah, of course.
It had nothing to do with their wife.
Right.
None of it. But the way they were acting out, and all anger, seated in shame and fear, is creating havoc. But I will say this: it's a good possibility that really good friendship, deep friendship, and community life can soften the blow of the fatherlessness wound.
Yeah.
I think the community life, what the church should be, or could be, or is going to be, can be a major healing element in people's lives, because it fills this gaping hole. So, like me, and I've lost my real father. I've had these great men of God that are nationally known people, and they passed away. And I was feeling a little bit lost there for a minute. And I was just thinking one day, and I'm like, what do I do now? I can't text them. And I just felt like God telling me, like, it's your turn, you're it.
Yeah.
You're going to be the Bishop Ash to other people or whatever. And so it just keeps getting passed on. But I think if we would quit looking for the pastor to be our father sometimes, and look at the community as a whole, because we can father everybody together.
That's good.
So I think that's important.
Yeah. Well, Mark, that's kind of the end of our time. I think it's a good place to wrap up. Feels like we talked for 5 minutes on honestly. But this is not an easy one. This runs deep.
Yeah.
And like we've said, it affects millions and millions and millions of men. So we just encourage you to look at your own life, look inward, and see if this is an area that needs some attention.
Yeah.
And
maybe a source of their frustration and
absolutely.
Maybe they never looked here before or didn't want to look.
Yeah. So we'll wrap up on that note, and thanks for joining us. Until next time, this is Breaking Biscuits. Breaking Biscuits. God bless.